For over a century, every single car ever built has shared one very specific thing in common. It doesn't matter if it's a cheap city hatchback or a $500,000 luxury sedan. They all have a thick steel beam running right through the center of the car's side. You have seen it your whole life, but probably never even noticed it was there. It's called the B-pillar, and for a century, engineers treated it just like gravity. You don't fight it. You don't question it. You simply have to build around it. It is quite literally the backbone of the entire vehicle. That steel wall is the line between life and death in a side impact crash. Remove it, and the whole cabin collapses just like wet cardboard in the rain. Every major brand spent 100 years engineering their cars around this one unbreakable rule. They followed this rule religiously. And then a Chinese company called Zeekr showed up. They looked at that 100-year-old rule and simply decided to break it. Not bend it, break it completely. What they built makes you question everything. You and I are going to rethink everything about how a car actually works. Zeekr is the ultra-premium electric vehicle division of the Geely Group. Same people who own Volvo. They spent nearly $1 billion on this. They were developing a ground-up electric platform called the SEAM architecture. They had one obsessive goal: give people inside the car total freedom. They wanted to make it stronger than anything else on the road. To do both, they had to solve a problem that had stumped the world. The entire automotive world has been stuck for a century. Their solution was so clever that when European engineers first saw it, their immediate reaction was that shouldn't even be possible. Here is what they built, and why it changes everything. The trick hiding in the door. The Zeekr Mix has no pillar. When you and I press the button, those massive doors glide open. There is nothing between them. No beam, no obstruction at all. Just a clean, wide, open gap, nearly 1.5 meters across. It looks like someone just cut the car's side out entirely. The first time you see it, your brain screams something is wrong. It looks like a car that shouldn't exist. But here is the trick. Zeekr didn't actually remove the B-pillar. They just hid it. Instead of one fixed steel pillar bolted permanently to the frame, Zeekr split it into 2 beams and built one into each sliding door. When doors are open, those beams move and disappear out of the way. But the moment the doors slide shut and lock in place, those 2 beams click into the floor and the roof rail. The car becomes a sealed, reinforced vault. This steel is 30% stronger than what's in other cars today. The side structure of the Zeekr Mix can withstand 20 tons of force. It takes that hit without the cabin being compromised. That's the weight of 3 full-grown African elephants pressing into the door. The cabin holds. Now, you and I should consider the real mystery. This fix didn't even need technology that was invented just yesterday. Ultra-high-strength steel has been around for years. Sliding doors? Decades. Moving a structural beam into a door isn't even a wild idea on paper. Yet, absolutely nobody did it. Not Volkswagen, not Mercedes, not Ford or Toyota. Not one of the world's largest or most well-funded engineering giants ever bothered to try. For a century, nobody even tried. People were so stuck on old ideas they forgot to ask if there was a better way. Imagine a puzzle sitting unsolved for that long. 100 years later, we finally see the answer was hiding in plain sight. Put that center pillar inside the door. Just move it when you do not need it anymore. Then lock it back. It sounds too easy, right? But that simplicity is exactly why it is brilliant. If you think a moving B-pillar is the only trick up this car's sleeve, you are not ready. Once Zeekr cracked that one case, they did not stop there. Steering, speed, charging, and the interior. Every mystery was picked apart and solved. They basically threw out the rulebook and started from zero. Some of these fixes are so smart you will wonder how we missed them for 100 years. Stick with me, because this mystery turns into a moving living room very fast. Without that pillar, the entire logic of how a car works just evaporates. For a century, we sat in rows like theater seats, just staring at someone's hair. Driver faced forward, passengers faced forward, everyone. We had no choice. The car's skeleton made it the only way to sit. That middle pillar dictated the doors, and the doors dictated how you were allowed to enter. Designers were trapped by angles. The seats had to follow the frame. It was a century of bad compromises, all caused by one single piece of steel. Cut the beam, and the problem vanishes. The seats in this Zeekr mix are on a high-tech electric rail. They can actually spin a full 270 degrees around. Hit one button, and you are suddenly facing the back of the car instead of the road. A table pops out of the console, and suddenly the car feel is totally gone. Now you are in a mobile lounge where everyone can actually see each other. Eat, work, or chat while the car handles the highway. This kind of setup used to be reserved for private jets or high-end trains. Now a family can get it for under $40,000. Pretty wild, right? The floor is flat. No humps, no tunnels. There is nothing to trip over. No mechanical obstacles blocking your way in the middle. Since this electric platform has no bulky engine parts, all that stolen floor space has finally been reclaimed. Every single inch of floor is yours. It feels less like a car and more like a tiny studio apartment flying down the road at 60 miles per hour. Then we have the steering mystery. There is zero physical connection between that wheel and the tires on the road. No heavy metal rod stabbing through the dash and into the engine. It uses steer-by-wire, exactly like the tech found in a modern fighter jet. Turn the wheel, and a digital signal tells the motors exactly what to do, instantly. The response is faster than any old-school mechanical system. You can tune it with code without ever touching a wrench or bolt. Why does this matter? Because getting rid of that steering column opens up the front. The entire dashboard area just breathes with space. Drivers get massive legroom and a total sense of freedom. In the future, when the car does the driving work, that wheel can just vanish right into the dashboard, leaving you with a totally clear and open room on wheels. Imagine the driver spinning around to join the conversation in the back. This car is a social lounge, even while you are cruising along. The secret is software that tweaks the steering feel in real time. At low speeds, it answers tiny inputs with sharp, immediate precision, making it ridiculously easy to maneuver anywhere. On the highway, the system settles into a calm, stable response. No hardware tricks needed, just code making the right call for you. It is a level of adaptability that old mechanical systems cannot match. We are looking at a future where code shapes your driving experience, not just metal cables and steering columns. Big vans turning like boats? That is a mystery we have solved. You know the struggle. Parallel parking a minivan on a tight street. You end up stuck doing a 5-point turn while tiny cars sail through in one smooth arc. The wheels usually hit a wall because the engine is in the way. Drive shafts in the front physically block your wheels from pivoting any further. For a century, we just accepted that as the price of size. The Zeekr mix turns in a tight 4.95 meters. Think about this. A Volkswagen Polo is famous for being one of the most nimble cars around. It needs around 5.1 meters just to turn around. This massive Zeekr mix has way more room for your passengers. But it actually outturns the tiny Polo in a tight spot. In a parking garage or school lane, it moves with total ease. This beast moves with the confidence of a car half its size. The solution to the riddle? It is what is missing up front. Because there is no gas engine taking up that space, and no thick drive shafts blocking the wheels. Those front wheels are now free to pivot at extreme angles. On this car, that angle hits over 50 degrees from center. Your average car usually maxes out around 40 degrees total. 10 extra degrees sounds small, but it changes the entire experience. It feels like the car is literally rotating on the spot. Combine that with steer-by-wire to boost your steering inputs. Now you have a giant van that handles city streets perfectly. It looks impossible. But then you step on the accelerator. You get a performance shock from this rolling living room. Hidden in the back is a motor pushing 415 horsepower. That is more power than a BMW M3. 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds. It is legit fast. Not just van fast, but actually seriously fast. This is the speed that humbles sports cars at the light. It is the kind of pull that makes passengers spill their coffee. And while that is happening, the people in back are sitting face to face at a table, completely relaxed, just having a chat. They have no idea you just smoked a hot hatch at the light. This is a combination that simply should not exist on paper. Total peace in the cabin. Total aggression under the floorboards. The secret is simple. This is a fundamental shift in car building. Think of it as a mobile office that doubles as a rocket. It gets better. Wait until we crack the case on how fast it refuels. Mystery solved. The big question for legacy car brands has always been that charging time. Nobody wants to waste 45 minutes at some charging station. It is the one excuse they have leaned on for years during EV debates. And honestly, for a long time, that logic actually carried some weight. Early electric cars were slow. Charging spots were rare. The math was bad. It was a total headache. So, the old guard felt safe. But look at this. The Zeekr mix hits 80% in 10.5 minutes. Not an hour. Not even 30 minutes. 10.5. You can barely grab a coffee and use the restroom before it is ready. How? The mix uses an 800-volt setup. Most cars use half that. Most electric vehicles on the road today are still stuck at 400 volts. Trust me, that voltage jump is not just some boring technical detail. It is how this thing pulls power at speeds we thought were impossible recently. Peak speeds topping 500 kilowatts? That is the answer right there. We are talking about 500 kilowatts of pure charging muscle. To see the truth, compare that to a gas station. Picture your last fill-up. You parked, unscrewed the cap, and stood there, holding a dirty nozzle for ages. You walked inside, waited to pay, and did the whole awkward card tap. By the time you hit the road again, you have wasted a lot of time. That whole pit stop almost certainly took you longer than 10.5 minutes. The Zeekr Mix does not care about your schedule. It just slides into your life. It fits the gaps you already have. The debate is finally over. Case closed. No version of that debate remains. But here is the real twist that almost everyone is totally missing. This car is not just waiting around in China. It is already here. It is cruising American streets right now. Waymo, that massive Google car project, they needed a platform for their next robotaxis. They searched the entire globe. They looked at every single option available on the market. They did not pick a local brand. They did not even choose Tesla. They picked Zeekr. This partnership started back in 2021. Designed in Sweden, built in China, and deployed in American cities. It is already roaming our streets as a fully driverless cab, carrying passengers in fully driverless taxis. This was not about politics. It was a cold, hard engineering choice. The floor was flat, the interior open, and the tech was simply better. It was exactly what the Waymo engineers needed. Nothing else in the market could even come close to it. So, the world's biggest self-driving program is built on Chinese tech. It is happening right under our noses. That is the real mystery solved. How did the game change? Compare it to the Volkswagen ID Buzz, that classic electric retro van everyone in the West seems to love. It is well built and has plenty of fans in the automotive press. It looks cool, sure, but the seats do not rotate, and the floor is not flat. That charging speed is nowhere near 10.5 minutes. Plus, the turning radius is massive. It even costs way more than the Zeekr Mix, which starts under $40,000. Again, this is not about just trashing the ID Buzz. It is a decent van, but next to the Zeekr, it reveals the big secret. It shows the price you pay for following rules instead of breaking them. Volkswagen basically built the best version of the past they could imagine. But Zeekr? They asked what a van looks like if the past did not exist. Here is the secret. None of this tech was locked in a hidden lab. That high-grade steel was already sitting right there. Making a flexible electric platform was totally doable. Even steer-by-wire has been an engineering buzzword for years. Every major car maker had the exact same building blocks. They just lacked the guts to challenge a 100-year-old assumption, and asking out loud if it made sense. That is the real mystery solved. Forget the spec sheet, the horsepower, or the charging time for a second. As impressive as all that is, the solution was just one engineering team. They asked the one question that everyone else had stopped asking. Then they followed that answer all the way to the end, without flinching. They moved the B-pillar. From that single decision, every other breakthrough just happened naturally. Suddenly, that massive open interior became possible. Those rotating seats? Now they actually work. Flat floors, steer-by-wire. It all works because that pillar is gone. Even the Waymo deal. You and I can trace it all back to one team, plus a casual $1 billion bet just to find the answer. Every car company on the planet is now looking at this vehicle. They are asking the same scary question. What other rules should we have broken years ago? Because if a pillar that was considered untouchable for 100 years can be moved, then no design is safe. Everything we know is just a habit, waiting to be broken. You just have to ask.